Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. As we are, inshallah, making a video to answer the criticize and the remarks that people do on myself and on my method of ruqya, especially on the jinn catching. So we have tried to compile, to gather all the questions and things that people say to answer them all, inshallah.
First question, do you avoid debate?
I don't avoid the debate. I look for debates. Wherever we go, in all countries, we go forward to the ulama that are responsible in that country to show to them. Actually, religion is not something that we can debate on, but we have to go to the ulama and show them what we do and get their approval or their remarks or their whatever they're going to say. It's not for usual people to debate on religious matters. And because there's this arguing about jinn catching, I went to the highest Salafi authority I can think of, which is the great Mufti of Saudi Arabia, and I exposed everything to him, and he gave me the best answer I ever had from any scholar, and that is, in one word, if this jinn catching only involves dua and reading Quran, there's no shirk and no haram in it. And I wanted him to write me a written answer and to publish it, as they publish any fatawas of people asking things onto them. But he said that they have a policy to reduce ruqya centers and to avoid professional ruqya, and they rather tell people to do ruqya themselves. So this is why they cannot encourage me by publishing this answer. But that is the answer he gave me. So we do go to meet the ulama, but even if it's not ulama, anyone who wants to discuss or ask questions, he is welcome.
Can you explain to us the ancient method and why was it changed?
So the ancient method is using the symbols in ruqya. At the beginning of ruqya, if someone has magic, for example, done on a tree, and we will know that because he will be dreaming of himself falling or flying. So we will tell him to wash with the Quranic water and gather the water and throw it on a tree, on any tree that is higher than him, with the intention of throwing on the sihr that has been done to him, as if he had found it and he's throwing on it. And that works and the sihr is destroyed. And if it is in the water like river or sea, who will get any points of water that is closest to him and throw the water there. If it is in the graveyard, he will go to any closest graveyard and throw the water on any grave with the intention of throwing on the sihr that has been put to him. And anything that has been done, if it has been done with knots or with a doll or with any kind of thing, he will put similar things in the water he had washed with to destroy it. So that is what we were doing, and alhamdulillah it was working without any problem. But it led people to argue, and when people go to their ulama and say, I went to Abd Rauf, he told me to go to the graveyard and to do knots and to take a doll. So they say, well, this is magic. And then it becomes very complicated to explain to them that it's not magic. We are treating by the same symbol that have been used to destroy that magic, just with the intention, as Musa alayhi salam, when the sahirs threw their ropes and sticks, he also threw his stick. So it is the same action he has done, but he has done it by the power and the order of Allah, and they have done it by the working with shayateen. But the action was the same. So looking like the magicians or the kuffar is not in itself magic or kufr. It depends what are you doing. But because this method caused problems to us and caused much debate, and in some countries it led to blocking the ruqya altogether, so we changed all this method by verses of Quran. So for any type of sihr, we will find a verse that talks about that can give us a clue to that sihr and add it in the water by reading it or by writing and diluting it, and the person will just wash with it and that sihr will go. So since we have changed that whole method, it's not because it was magic or it was shirk or it was wrong, but because it was not understood and there was a shubha there was a similitude between what we do and the magicians do. So we left it and turned back to total Quranic method. So there will be no problem with it and no ambiguity. Now, when we first changed that method, it happened in Burkina Faso, and because we were going to use a new method, and we had a method that works and that is halal, so we cannot endanger the patients and do experience on them not knowing if it's going to work or not. So we started to do this new experiment in the places where it was impossible to do the old method. So we did that for in the beginning, and pretty soon we saw that it was working very well. So then we changed the whole method for all our centers throughout the world.
Can you explain why the jinn catching is not shirk?
Well, the jinn catching, when a patient has jinns that speak, we will work on them to make them embrace Islam. And once they make shahada, we make sure they are really Muslim, because their body must change from black to white. And also, they must not suffer from the Quran. If you read on the jinn and the jinn said, okay, I make shahada, la ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, leave me now. So that means he's not really Muslim. Because if he was really Muslim, your reading will not harm him anymore, and he will not ask you anymore to stop and to leave him. So that shows that he's just lying, or he did not understand what is the shahada, and he's still in the shirk and working with the devils and working with the magician. So he has to become white, and he also, the Quran must not burn him. One jinn has accepted that and became white, now you tell him, is there any more jinns with the person? And usually there are many who say, yes, we're 5 or 10 or whatever. So you say, we'll ask Allah to bring the other ones. And you read, أَيْنَمَا تَكُونُوا, and the next ones will be easier to convert to Islam. And the more you bring, the more they become easier to convert. When you finish the jinns of the patient, you get the jinns from his house and family, and from all the magicians that worked on him in the past. You bring all the jinns to convert them. Once you have converted them, you read وَكَانَ حَقًّا عَلَيْنَا نَصْرُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ until they get weapons, and then فَقَاتِلُوا أَوْلِيَاءَ الشَّيْطَانِ, fight the allies of the devil. And the Muslim jinns will see that the allies of the devil are the magicians, and they will go back to those magicians they were working for to fight them. So once you have done that, once you have cleared the environment of the patient, now he can catch the jinn of any other person. So because he has this passage, this gap between him and the jinn's world, and because he was trained to bring jinn and make them become Muslim, so it becomes easier and easier to bring other jinns and to make them become Muslim also. So this is why there's no shirk, it is only dua and using Quran. So the thing about jinn catching is that there is a gap between the person and the jinn's world, and what brings the jinn, it is the dua and the attention of the catcher, and also the pilot who's reading on the catcher. And those verses of Quran make it easy, because the Quran acts on jinn. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala has told us twice in Quran, in 2 separate stories, that the jinns came to Rasulullah when he was praying, and they heard his recitation of Quran, and they embraced Islam without even him knowing that they were there, without any discussion between them. They just listened to Quran, and that shocked them positively, and they accepted Islam. But unfortunately, we were not able to take advantage of these surahs and these teachings, and for years I was debating with jinns to make them become Muslim, until I discovered that it was useless, and you just have to give them a verse of Quran that means what you want to say, and they will accept it, and they will embrace Islam immediately. So since we have discovered that, we are using Quran for jinn catching, so it makes it very fast and easy for jinns to come and to become Muslim.
Do you work with jinn?
We don't work with jinns, and I don't believe in working with jinns. So in our jinn catching, we catch the bad jinns that are harming people, we make them become Muslim, and we send them to fight the magicians, and that's the end. The only relation we keep with them is to make dua for them every day. But that is a general rule of Islam. If you work for any Islamic work, if you give da'wah, you should give time every night to make dua for those people you have done da'wah to. For anything you do for the sake of Allah, you must give time for dua to keep it going. So that dua we do for jinns, it's like putting fuel in your car every day. It keeps them going, and it keeps your good actions that you have done for Allah Ta'ala going, because you keep on entertaining them with new dua. That is the only relation you keep with the jinns. And I don't believe in working with jinns. Actually, it did happen that some jinns become Muslim and they say they want to help me. I said, go ahead, help. Whatever you can help, help. I am not asking you anything. If you feel that this is a good work and you want to help for the sake of Allah, you help. But we cannot keep a contact with the jinn. If someone has a jinn that helps him to cure people, for example, the jinn will give him information that this patient has this has that, he's got such and such situation, it will not last more than a month. Because the people who you treat, they also have bad jinns, and eventually those jinns will see that you have a jinn helping you, so they will attack him, and eventually you'll get bad jinns that are stronger than your jinn. They will beat him up and they will take his place. One of them is going to take his place, and he's going to keep taking you into errors and playing, having fun with you, giving you wrong things about people, and telling you, making you think that you are great and you're working, people are curing when you are doing nothing. So this is why I tell you by experience, if someone uses Muslim jinns to treat people, it would not last more than a month. And all those who say they have mashayikh, they have this, they have kings, it is nothing. It is nothing. They will always get big jinns to come beat them up and take their place, and finally they will just be led into, they will just have jinns playing around with them.
Can we say that the jinn catching is not Islamic because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not do it?
No, we cannot, because the ruqya is a medical matter, and there is plenty of dalils on this. The clearest dalil is a hadith reported by Muslim that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he came to Medina, when he made hijrah, the people who used to do ruqya in Medina came to see him and said, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, we used to do ruqya before Islam, what do you say about it? And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, recite me your ruqya, because ruqya means healing by words, by things you say. There's no harm in doing ruqya as long as there is no shirk. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam allowed all the ruqyas that were used before Islam, as long as there are no shirk, because they were idol worshippers, so they could put names of idols or names of jinns or things that are shirk in their du'as, in their words. So provided there is no those things, any words you have found that help to cure people, you can use it. So that's what Rasulullah sallallahu reported by Muslim, and there are many dalils that the ruqya is not something that is tawqifi, that is needs to be taught by Rasulullah, needs to be taught by Islam. You have the 4 conditions of ruqya that are 3 conditions well known to the scholars. First, it has to be Quran or Arabic language or any language you can understand. And that shows that it does not have to be taught by Islam, because it could be any language you understand or in Arabic, and it will be accepted as ruqya. So it does not have to be something that is taught by Rasulullah. And the second condition is that there's no shirk in it. And the third condition is that you don't believe that the ruqya cures by itself, but only by the power of Allah. You see, so fundamentally ruqya is not something that is taught by Islam, is any method one can use to treat by words. But now that these words are Quran and we are using Quran, so there's absolutely no doubt that it is halal, because any other words, as long as there's no shirk, are accepted. So what about Quran? There's no harm in using Quran, and there's no need for any dalil, because the whole Quran is shifa. As Allah says, وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ, we bring down a Quran that is a remedy and a mercy for believers. So the whole Quran is remedy. So however you use the Quran, as long as you don't use it in a sinful way, like with najasa or reading it in toilet, something that is forbidden, any use, proper use you do of Quran for shifa, that is under this verse that we give down the Quran, that is shifa, that is a remedy.
Did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam teach us clearly about ruqya?
No, Rasulullah did not teach clearly about ruqya. And the proof is that the Sahaba used to do the ruqya before Islam, and Rasulullah just controlled is there any shirk or not. And look at the other story when the Sahaba met a tribe, when the chief of the tribe was bit by a scorpion, and one Sahabi went to do ruqya, and he did ruqya by Fatiha on him, by Surah Fatiha. And when they came back to Medina, and Rasulullah asked him, وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ أَنَّهَا رُقْيَةٌ, how did you know that Fatiha was a ruqya? That this Surah Fatiha had the power to cure. So that means that before this story, the Sahaba did not know, and the Rasulullah did not teach them that you can use Fatiha to cure as a ruqya. And he said, شَيْءٌ أُلْقِيَ إِلَيْ أَوْ شَيْءٌ أُلْهِمْتُهُ. He said, it just came into my mind, or I was inspired in that way. So Rasulullah did not teach them, and whoever uses Quran in any way to treat, he is welcome. In any proper way that's not najasa, not something forbidden, it is accepted.
Some people say Quran is for hidayah and not for calling jinn.
The purposes of Quran are not limited into hidayah, into teaching, into whatever you want. Quran can be used for protection. Of course, we know Ayatul Kursi before sleeping as protection, and how Rasulullah went in Surah in Hijrah, and he was reading وَجَعَلْنَا مِنْ بَيْنِ أَيْدِيهِمْ سَدًّا وَمِنْ خَلْفِهِمْ سَدًّا فَأَغْشَيْنَاهُمْ فَهُمْ لَا يُبْصِرُونَ. And those youth who were sent to kill him, they did not see him pass. So it is used for protection, and it is used for shifa. And it is shifa. We are bringing jinns to cure people, and also for da'wah. Quran is for da'wah. We bring these jinns to give them da'wah. So alhamdulillah, as I told you in these two stories where the Quran, where jinns converted by listening to Quran, Quran has a power upon jinns. It acts upon jinns and it burns them when they are not Muslim. And when they hear the Quran, they understand and they react to it immediately. So alhamdulillah, this is an opportunity for us to bring them and to convert them.
Is jinn catching permissible? En fait,
yes, explain. What is the question?
Jinn catching, ruqya is not permissible because it is seeking help, assistance and cure through jinn, which is shirk. Some say it is asking Allah and the jinn.
Okay. So in the jinn catching, we don't ask anything from the jinns. We don't have jinns to bring the jinns. We don't ask the jinns to come. Please come. No, we ask Allah to bring the jinns. And Allah brings the jinns. And many times the jinns say, how did you bring me here? Why did you bring me here? How come? I was hidden. How did you bring me here? They say it. And it is Allah who brought them. We don't have a power, a physical power to call the jinns, to bring the jinns, to attract the jinns like magnet. We are asking Allah and using this verse, and the jinns come. So there's no jinns involved in bringing the jinns, in jinn catching. And we read the verses to convert them. Once they are converted, we send them to fight back the magicians. So there's no jinns involved. We don't ask the jinns. We don't ask Allah and ask the jinns. We don't ask the jinns. Now, when we ask questions to the jinns, it is like if a policeman catches a robber and asks him question. Will you say that that policeman is working with the robber? No, he caught the robber. He might as well take whatever information he can take out of that robber, knowing that it is a robber, is likely to lie. So the policeman must be clever, but he will ask the robber whatever he wants to ask, and then he will use his brain to figure out is that reliable or not information. But the fact to ask the jinns, there's no, it's not asking help from the jinns.
Instead of reading on the patient to do diagnostic, we read on the catcher. Indirect ruqya is bid'ah.
So first of all, the word bid'ah is not appropriate for ruqya, because ruqya is curing, was before Islam, continued, and the Rasulullah gave some boundaries, that is to do no shirk. And then we knew that Quran can be used for ruqya and for shifa, but it was not explained and detailed by the Sunnah. So it is a medical field, even though it uses Quran, even though you must avoid shirk. But so we cannot speak of bid'ah concerning ruqya. Secondly, I don't believe in doing diagnostic by reading on the patient. The patient comes, you read on him, and you want to see what reactions he's got, to say that you've got jinn, you've got magic, you've got ayn, you've got this, or you have nothing. I don't believe in that diagnostic. Of course, some reactions can come, but some reactions cannot come. And some people have no reactions when they listen to Quran, yet they do have Quran, they do have jinn, they do have ayn, but there's no reaction. So I don't believe in this method of diagnostic. Our diagnostic is based on 4 symptoms: blockages in life, for work, for marriage, for studies, for money, etc., unusual health problems, pains, weird diseases, unusual mental states like anger, depression, forgetting, fears, hearing voices, goes to madness, and bad dreams. So these 4 symptoms are mentioned in Quran. That is what we use for diagnostic. And we don't use jinn catching for diagnostic. That is wrong. You don't think that we are bringing the jinns to understand what you have. What is your problem? That's not what we do. We understand your problem by discussing with you, hearing what you say, why are you coming, why are you seeking help, and we will ask you all the questions we need to ask, and that's how we establish your diagnostic. Now, when we take away your jinns, we will ask them, what are you doing with this guy? And they will say, well, we have been sent by magic, there's 5 times magic by 2 people or whatever. Actually, we don't need that information, but we'd ask that from the jinn, so you understand that your jinns have come and this is what they have said and they have gone. Yet that information is not reliable as such, and it's not used for diagnostic, and that will not involve in your treatment.
In diagnostic, when you ask mother name for catching, people have twisted it to make it look like you're asking for mother name like magicians do.
We ask for names for catching. If you come for treatment and you say, for example, you have problem with your wife and she gets angry, so we'll ask you the name of your wife, so we will also do the catching for her to remove her jinns. And any person you want in your family or whoever you want that I would like you to help my mother or who, so you give the names and we'll also do the jinns to remove their jinns. So we will get some of their jinns, but it's not as efficient as if the person is in front of us. But anyway, it will help. It will, whatever help it can help, that will help the person. So this is why we ask for names, for various names. For example, if it is a child that is affected by magic, it is very likely that this magic comes from his mother. Because when a lady is pregnant, if she has magic on her, that will often go onto the child through pregnancy. So if a young child has some jinn and jadoo sihr problems, we will ask for who is the mother. If she's not here, what's her name? So we'll take off the jinns from her and check if she really has sihr, if that is the one that has affected the child. In that case, we ask for the mother name. But otherwise, we don't specifically ask for and we don't need the mother's name. We just need the person's name. If the person is here, we don't even need his name, but he's here. But if you want us to do catching for someone else, or if you're calling us from far away to ask for catching, we ask for your name and your city, so we can target your catching.
Does the jinn catching harm the catcher?
When the person is becoming a catcher, when the person is possessed and we are converting the jinns and bringing other jinns and the jinns of his house and family and from the people who made sihr on them, some people can't bear it. When you remove his jinns, if he brings another jinn, it puts him in a new problem, very difficult to get that jinn out, to come over it. And so if the patient does not want to become jinn catcher, it is the end of it. But if the patient wants to become jinn catcher, we'll try to continue bringing jinns and converting them until it becomes smooth and easy and he feels no harm on it. But some people don't. They try, it does not work, it keeps on being difficult, makes him tired, makes him ill, so we leave them. And we only keep those who can do it without any problem. And alhamdulillah, we are a group, and we are Muslim brothers and sisters, and we are the first ones. We don't want our fellows to be harmed, and they themselves, they will not. If anyone in Ruqya says, no, this is not suiting me, I'm getting problems, so he's going to stop. And any jinn catcher can stop, and he will go back to normal life, and his breaches will close, and that will be the end of it. But alhamdulillah, those we keep, they don't have any harm, no physical, no mental, no marriage harm. They are living normal lives, alhamdulillah.
The hadith of Sulaiman alayhi salam means the catching is not allowed. What do you think about this?
That is a totally wrong understanding of the hadith of Sulaiman alayhi salam. So Rasulullah said, yesterday night I was praying, a shaitan came to disturb my prayer, so I caught his neck until I felt the cool of his saliva on my arm, on my forearm, and I thought of attaching him on in the mosque, so that the morning everybody would see him and the children would play with him in Medina. But then I remembered the dua of Sulaiman alayhi salam, I let him go. So what does that mean? Sulaiman alayhi salam said, Rabbi ighfir li wa hab li mulka la yanbaghi li ahadin min ba'di. Oh my Lord, forgive me and give me a kingdom that no one after me will have. This means that no one after Sulaiman alayhi salam can have his same power. For example, Sulaiman had the wind to take him to travel. غُدُوُّهَا شَهْرٌ وَرَوَاحُهَا شَهْرٌ. He will go in one morning, 1 month distance. What people usually travel during 1 month, he will do it in the morning, come back in the afternoon. So no one will ever have this. Yet we can build airplanes, we can make helicopters, we can make etc. But no one will have the wind to obey to him. And the power Sulaiman alayhi salam had over jinns, وَمَن يَزِغْ مِنْهُمْ عَنْ أَمْرِنَا نُذِقْهُ مِنْ عَذَابِ السَّعِيرِ. Whoever disobeys to him, we hit him with hellfire. So any jinns who disobeys to Sulaiman alayhi salam, the Jahannam will hit him, he will die immediately. So if Sulaiman tells the jinn, don't move, finish, he cannot move. Do this job, do that, anything he will tell them, they have to obey immediately, totally. And otherwise they will die. So that is the power Allah have given to Sulaiman to command the jinns by his words. Of course, we don't have this power. No one can have this power. But Allah Ta'ala has made that when the jinns come into our world, he becomes vulnerable and you can catch him, you can kill him, you can do whatever you want. Like the story of Abu Huraira radiallahu anhu, when the jinn, the shaitan came to rob the zakat, he caught him. And 3 times Rasulullah said, what are you doing with your prisoner? What happened with your prisoner? So he was his prisoner. So when the jinn come, you can catch him. It is possible. It is possible because Rasulullah did it and Abu Huraira did it. And it is permissible. If he has come, you can fight him, you can catch him, you can kill him, you can attach him. So as Rasulullah wanted to attach him and keep him and show him to everybody, then he left it. It is not because it is haram or because it is not possible. It was possible and it's not haram. But as a respect for that specific dua and specific power of Sulaiman alayhi salam, Rasulullah left him. So what we do is exactly what Rasulullah did. We catch the jinns, just the time to convert them, and we let them go. So it is all the opposite. This hadith shows that it is possible to catch the jinn and to release them. It is possible and it is not haram. And some people will say, but Rasulullah, so it is incredible. I said this to someone, he said, but Rasulullah caught the jinns when he came in front of him. But how can you catch the jinn inside of a body? You see, so these people, they don't have any argument. They just keep on looking for an argument. That's not normal. If you have something against jinn catching, you say it and you stick on it. You don't keep bringing something else. Like one told me, I answered all his arguments and he said, I don't have any more arguments, but I'm gonna look until I find a proof against jinn catching. I said, this is not normal. You must follow the proofs. It's not the proofs that will follow you. You have no proof and you believe jinn catching is bad, and now you're going to look until you get a proof. But why do you believe it is bad? You have no proof. Why should you believe it is bad? So you must change your mind if there's no proof. So what am I saying? So then he told me, but Rasulullah caught the jinn when he came as a being, as an apparent being. But how can you catch him inside the body? I said, well, yes, there's a hadith that Rasulullah caught the jinn inside the body? When Rasulullah was with some Sahaba that wanted to eat, and the young girl came running, rushing to eat, and he caught her hand. And then a man, Arabi, coming from the jungle, was rushing to eat, and Rasulullah caught his hand. And then Rasulullah said that Shaitan wanted to eat, and he brought this young girl to eat without saying Bismillah, so he can eat. And I caught her hand, and then he brought his man, and I also caught his hand. He said, Wallahi, his hand is in my hand when I caught her hands. So that is the proof that Rasulullah caught the jinn inside the body.
Why do jinns act the same and speak the same language in the catching?
Well, yes, because when the jinn comes through a catcher, he will come through his personality. And for example, the jinn reads your mind. Before you put words on your thoughts, the jinn can read your thoughts. That's why the jinn can make waswas. Whatever language you speak, he does not need to know your language. He can speak right into your brain, right into your feelings, right into your thoughts. So when a jinn comes, he mostly will speak the language of the person. Will it be someone possessed or in the jinn catching? And it happens, but it's very rare that the jinn will speak a language that the person does not speak. A human language of some other country, or a language that's not even human, that sounds like barking or sounds like something that's not human at all. That does happen, but it is rare. Mostly the jinns will speak the language of the person. And the jinns will also speak the standard of language of each person. If someone has a high standard of language, the jinn will come speak that way. And if someone is very rude and brutal and is not educated, so the jinns will also speak his way. And that is what we get. And we get some catchers, there in their life, they speak a lot. So when the jinn comes, he starts just blah, 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 saying plenty of things of what he was doing and what the person has. And some other catchers, there's people who don't speak a lot. And some catchers don't like jinns to speak, and they don't believe what jinns speak. So when the jinns comes into that person, it is very, very hard to get any kind of information through that jinn. So when the jinn comes, he comes through the personality of the catcher, that is for sure. So there's an influence of the personality of the catcher. And some catchers, they are violent when they catch. The jinn makes a lot of noise and a lot of movements. And any jinn comes, he will do that way. And other catchers are calm. So any jinn come, he will also be calm. So that is the way it is.
Are people possessed or catcher acting psychologically because they have seen the same scenes?
I don't remember any patient that I said, no, you have a psychological problem, you hear voices, or you act like this, or you hate your husband, that is psychological. No, all these symptoms are symptoms of jinn and magic. So I never seen one person behaving like possessed when he was not possessed, just because he saw a film or he heard something about it and he started acting the same. I never seen this. And we had some fake catchers. It happened twice, as much as I can remember. People were not catchers, they had jinns, and those jinns were pretending to catch jinns of other people. And they, anytime we tell them to catch for someone, that jinn comes and he makes like a sketch and shows us that you have caught the jinn of the person. But you very easily understand it, because the jinns, they don't have a lot of imagination to make a lot of scenarios. So they will be repeating the same thing for a few people, and you say this is impossible. And he will always be giving the same answers. They're not good liars, and they can't invent many stories. It's not part of their world, so they can't keep inventing it. So we very, very easily understand that this is fake thing.
Most ulama forbid to speak with jinn.
No, it's not right. Ulama do not forbid to speak with jinn. We have the story of Abu Huraira radiallahu anhu speaking with the jinn 3 nights, and every morning Rasulullah was asking him what happened, and he's going to come back and this, and Rasulullah did not say, hey, that's a jinn, you must not speak with him, it is forbidden to speak with jinns. No, it's not forbidden to speak with jinns. And Ibn Taymiyyah has written what is permissible, not permissible to ask the jinns about. And there's a story of Ibn Baz, Abdul Aziz Ibn Baz, former former Mufti of Saudi Arabia, rahimahullah, that one girl was possessed by jinn, and the jinn said he wanted to speak with bin Baz, and so her father was attending the courses of bin Baz. He told him, and Sheikh bin Baz came, or they brought the daughter to him, and bin Baz, rahimahullah, spoke with that jinn for 2 hours, and then he said, yes, what he's saying is correct. This is part of the fatawi that is published of the Saudi Arabia ulama concerning jinn and magic. So there's nothing that is forbidden to speak with the jinns. It depends what you speak with them, or if you're going to believe them absolutely, or if you think he's going to give you some great information. Anyway, so some ulama will forbid to speak with jinns because they're afraid that people go beyond boundaries and do wrong things with jinns and go astray with this. This is why they will forbid as ihtiyat, yani as a matter of caution, but in itself it's not forbidden.
If you don't believe jinns, why do you speak so much with them?
Well, the videos we do is to explain to people and to show that to people. But in our daily ruqya, we speak very little with jinns. And when we do the catching for the patients, we know how it works, and we bring jinns, we convert them. We very rarely and very little we speak with jinns. But because there's too much shirk. You see, the other day we did the catching for the volcano and the mountain in Malaysia, and also that temple. So that lady who asked me for the catching for the mountain, she told me that yes, indeed, her village, because she told me, please catch those jinns before they do the earthquake and they destroy our mountain. And I said, no, the jinns cannot do earthquake, but they make people believe they will do earthquakes, so you do sacrifices for them. And she said, yes, all her village does that. They do sacrifices for the jinns so that the jinns don't do earthquake and don't destroy them. And it is just the jinns making fun of them and putting them into shirk. So it is to fight that shirk and to give awareness to people on how jinns are and how jinns push people into shirk that we do these videos. And also to fight the evil that is going on earth. And you have to understand that people use magic and shirk very, very much. An example against Muslims. For example, terrorism. You have these Muslims killing people in so many different countries. So you say, what's happening? Is everybody turning crazy? You can't say it is an exception. It's not an exception. There are so much everywhere. Killing people. So someone is behind it. Someone is sending jinns on Muslims to do that. But only the Muslims who already have jinns and magic can be controlled by new other jinns, and that push them to kill each other, to make disorder against amongst Muslims. So it is important that we understand why this phenomenon. Are we all becoming crazy, or what's happening to us?
Why is your ruqya more developed in Africa?
Yes, my ruqya is more developed in Africa, mashallah, because I spent my first campaign in Africa was 2005. And before that, for 8 years, I was treating people in France. I trained 10 people on ruqya. In those 30 days I spent in Africa, I trained about 30 people on ruqya, plus I trained on psychotherapy, plus I did 17 conferences and 3 times in radio, everything. So there's so much more demand there and so much more people ready to learn and to fight. So this is why I spend more time there and I get more people training. And of course it is much easier to open a center in Africa. Even relations with authorities is easier. So where there is more result, that's where I'll spend more time. Alhamdulillah. And inshallah, may Allah make it easy for Pakistan, India, Malaysia, Indonesia, Turkey.
What do you say to those?
But Arab countries are very difficult. Authorities are difficult, and people also are quite difficult compared to other nations, with all my respect.
Is jinn catching used for diagnostic?
We already answered that. We don't use it for diagnostic.
What do you say to those who accuse you of anything?
Yes, some people accuse me of anything. really anything. Like for example, I went in one country. Well, it's in how's it called? In Gabon. I went in Gabon. Allah Ta'ala made that we were in the hardest Salafi masjid in the capital city, Libreville. And I spent 2 weeks there. The first week was fantastic, and we did perfect work. And it is a very big masjid with 3 floors. Alhamdulillah, we had very nice work. After 1 week, they realized I was a guy from Tabligh Jamaat. And that masjid, those people, they're really against Tabligh Jamaat, always preaching against Tabligh Jamaat. So now they were very upset how they received me and put me forward, etc. And I am from Tabligh Jamaat. So now they start looking for anything and giving any kind of arguments against me. And they said that when I say أينما تكونوا يأتي بكم الله جميعا إن الله على كل شيء قدير, I will change the words and the letters so it becomes shirk, and that is why the jinns come. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. It is total nonsense, because they cannot believe how can someone from Tabligh be working on jinns and converting jinns and curing people. This is not possible, because Tabligh people, they say, have wrong aqidah, so any Tabligh person cannot be doing something right and something good. And this is completely wrong, because Tabligh is a group that does not teach aqidah. It does not teach aqidah, because in India, Pakistan, they have ulama in every masjid, and all the children of Muslims, they follow courses from young. So concerning deen, they are taught deen by their ulama according to their madhab. So when people come into Tabligh, they do not teach them deen. They just teach them da'wah. And Tabligh is a worldwide movement. So if you go in Tabligh, if you're from Arab country, from Indonesia, from Turkey, from anywhere, they will not teach you Indian madhab or Hanafi madhab or Deobandi aqidah. No, they will just teach you the way to make da'wah. That's it. And you come with your aqidah, with your madhab, with however you are, and you will stay however you are. Now, in the Indian and Pakistani groups, they have alim in each group that will also teach them about religion according to their madhab. So that is meaningless. I am Arab person, I have been in Tabligh, they did not teach me any kind of aqidah, that we go to graves, that we do this. And I have been even to India, Pakistan, I even taught Urdu, yani Sikhna. I learned a bit of Urdu so I can have direct contact with the mashayikh, with the buzurgu, and never I have seen something that is not confirmed to aqidah. So that is totally stupid and nonsense to say that Tabligh people have false aqidah, and anyone who goes to Tabligh, his aqidah is false. So this is the kind of arguments that people say nonsense. That people say nonsense just because, well, if you are shocked that jinn catching, you think it is impossible, you think it is impossible. It is something new to you, you cannot bear it, so it is something new to you. That's all you can say. Don't look for false arguments that have no meaning.
Last question. How can you be sure that the jinn are really Muslim?
We did answer it. We are sure that the jinns are Muslim because the Quran does not burn them anymore, and because they were black and they turned into white. That's how we know that they have really become Muslim. May Allah Ta'ala accept us and guide us. And if you have any question, you just send them to the website, inshallah. And inshallah we will answer you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.